Hey guys, welcome to another video from the Parrot Bros. Now, as you guessed it, we are in the convertible. Gives it away a little bit, I know. I'm making the most of it because the sun is shining and there is a list to be made. Now, as promised, when I bought this car, I said we're going to be making a list. Now, I wanted you to follow me on the whole journey, start to finish, if there is ever a finish. Who knows, it is a TT. But basically, I wanted to show you what I do when I buy a car, the things I check, the issues I find, and the things I want to do to make it better. Now, obviously, I want this to be the best it can be, like you do. I'm going to address all the little things and all the big things. I've also got my snazzy new Topdon code reader here, so we're going to be doing some internal checks as well, because I think there might be some codes due to a few issues I have already found. So before we get stuck into it, let's jump into that intro. Okay, so you bought yourself a car and you want to do some checks, make sure it's going to be as good as it can be. It's not going to let you down in the future. Obviously, I want to drive this daily. I want to take it to meets. I want to take it out with my family. Well, one extra person because it's only got 2 seats. But me and that person want to go somewhere and not have any issues. Now, that is really important to me. Obviously, maintenance is key, but when you buy a car, you don't know what maintenance it's had in the past. Now, you can always deal with as presented, as in the fact that you look at a car and if it looks nice, the likelihood is it's probably been well looked after. That's a good start. Service history, maintenance, paperwork, make sure it's got some sort of proof that it's had all this information done, all the servicing and stuff. You also want to make sure that it's had things like timing belts, if it's had regular services, Haldex service. These are all things that we know can be an issue. Not to mention that pickup pipe. If it hasn't had that done, and if you don't know what I'm on about, feel free to drop me a message, but that is definitely something I would look at some point. Now, let's go with aesthetics first. So, great looking car. Now, I have already gone ahead and addressed one thing, well, 2 things actually. I gave it a really good wash because that's the first thing you do when you buy a car, and give it a real good wash, see what you're working with, and it come up really nice. Now, the first issue that we have dealt with is the headlights. Now, if you've watched Sunday's video last Sunday, you'll have known I give them a good polish up and they look phenomenal. Now, whilst I was making that video, I also said to you guys that I was going to do some tidying up on the front of the car. Now, I have already done that, and I have put videos on there in the past. So what I've done is I've got some black, some plastic refresh, what does he call it? Refreshing dress, like ceramic coating, which you put on the plastics, same as what I used to UV coat the headlights. And it's a trim restorer, that's the word I was looking for, trim restorer. So now that grille is lovely and black. I've also removed the lower grills and painted them black. Now, obviously, it doesn't help because they're in the shade, but you can see they are lovely and black now. Not a mark on them. They usually get white and spotty, mainly because the stone chips over the years damage that coating, because it's like a rubberized black paint. Now, so the front of the car, actually really happy with it. I wouldn't mind a 3-bar grille, but I'm not going to rush out and get one because this is how this car is meant to be. This is an extra, this is a really early 2000-2001 car, so that is the grille it would have had when it left the factory, same as the black headlights. So pretty much the only thing that it shouldn't have is these gigantic 19-inch wheels, which, you know what? The more I drive it, the more I like it. I just need to get some spacers because they are being eaten by the arches. Look at that, look. Look at this gap here, that's ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. That arch needs filling up nice and wide. Moving on to the back. Do you know what? It's not too bad. One other thing I have done is I've swapped this headlight, because if you looked at the video where I was walking around when I bought this car, headlight, relight, what am I on about today? This had a faded patch, quite common. I have actually machined and UV coated these ones just so they don't get any worse. But I swapped over that rear light. I have got a video on swapping the rear lights if you need to do that. But I already had one on the shelf. I kept it from another car that I broke a while ago because I know they're a problem. So, actually, aesthetics-wise, this car isn't too bad. Yes, I know I need to deal with this scrape where I scratched it getting it out of the guy's garage. So, besides that, the exterior is actually pretty good. I need to machine polish these. I actually have a little trick for that. I've got a special polishing ball. Stick it on a drill with a bit of gear and it'll come straight off. But besides that, apart from painting the calipers, that's probably about the only thing I will do, because one's silver, one's grey, one's rusty and the other one's sort of black, so none of them really match, but there's nothing really wrong with it. But visually, that is it on the list of things to do on the outside. I'd like to machine polish it and ceramic coat it at some point. I have just given it a wash and a wax for the time being, just to buy me some time, because obviously there's no point making it absolutely gleaming and it break down on the side of the road on me. So, not too bad. So I've done the best I can for the time being. So, let's move on to interior. Now, interior, again, like I showed you, the baseball, actually in a very nice condition. I've given it a clean. Hasn't actually cleaned up too bad. The only thing I need to address is this bit on both sides, more so on the driver's side. And look at that gear knob, it's all sort of lost its colorant. So I need to get some more colorant on that. And the knee pads, I guess, where they're only thin leather, they actually look like a different color. They're sort of tan versus brown. The steering wheel, you can see there's a completely different color. So that's one thing to do. Interior wise, apart from that, I need to get myself a phone holder, because obviously TCs are horrific. You can't put anything on the windscreen because it's not very big. So I'll probably buy one of them OEM phone mounts. I need a cup holder because it doesn't have a cup holder. And I'd quite like an armrest. I haven't really decided what I'm going to do about that, to be fair. Now, engine-wise, it drives really well. It's got one small issue, which is quite a big issue at the same time. Let me just open the bonnet. Now, the bonus for me is, at the moment, is the car is 100% stock, which means parts I have loads of, because no one really wants stock parts, so I have them in abundance. So this is the engine bay. I've taken the cover off just so I could check a few of the pipes today. That's why my hands are a bit grubby, because I've just been checking a few things, like making sure that pipe, I need to put that heat shield back on when it's cooled down. But basically I was just checking everything was bolted in as it should be, making sure none of the pipes were missing or hanging off like that. And there was no obvious splits or damages, because it has a boost leak. Now, how do I know that, do you ask? There's two really big giveaways. One is the revs hang, so if you rev it, it should drop down pretty quickly. If it doesn't, trying to think of the best way to explain this, probably just by making funny noises. So basically, if you rev it and it goes rum, and it takes ages to come down rather than going rum, rum, you probably have a boost leak. You could have an issue with your throttle body. I'm not ruling that out, but very common. If your revs hang, you could have a boost leak. Now, the other big giveaway is that as soon as you go down the road and stick it, give it, pin it, whatever you want to do, floor it, as soon as it gets to about 2,500, 3,000 RPM, all you hear is and this big rush of like a kettle boiling, almost forcing air out of somewhere. So it has a massive boost leak, and it is horrific. So literally it goes to get power and you think, yeah. It makes this big noise and it's horrible. And I can't really see any jumping out at me issues. Now, I'm pretty good at finding things if it's there to be found, but I have a sneaky suspicion it'll either be one of the pipes under there, or one of the intercoolers or intercooler pipes may have an issue, because these intercoolers can blow out over time. The ends of the cap-ins could break, the plastics could damage, it could be literally anything. I may be wrong, I usually am, but there's not really much else to check. I mean, the the diverter valve is fine. This tip looks okay for the most part. What I'm going to be doing is, in the next couple of videos, I will do a pressure check. So that is where you get a compressor, put a bung in the end, and then you put pressure into the system. Now, I'll explain how to do that on that video. The other option is a smoke test, but the likelihood is most of you don't have a smoke tester, whereas most of you may have access to a compressor. So we'll go through that first. Of course, you can do a smoke test if you have the means to do so, or if you want to go on YouTube and watch a DIY on how to make one, because actually they're not that bad. Now, let's move into the car, and basically we're going to do I'll stick you up here for a minute just while I get set up. Okay, so now we move into probably the more important one, is checking for codes. Now, when you buy a car, it may not have lights on the dash, and that could be for a number of reasons. They may have taken the bulbs out, the bulbs may have blown, where they've been on for so long, been neglected for such a long period of time, that they've burnt out. Unlikely, but well, you never know. I have bought some ropey motors in the past. The other option is they could have covered the light up. So when you turn your ignition on, you should have a selection of lights. There should be the engine management light, there should be the traction control light, there should be airbags and all other things. And when you start your car, they should all disappear, fingers crossed. Now, I'll try and show you this. It is quite a sunny day today, so we may challenge a little bit. But basically, I've been sent this Topdon RT Diag 600S. S is for super. Super duper. No, I'm only joking. I don't actually know what S stands for. But this is actually a very powerful tool. Now, you can buy cheaper code readers. They do ones 30, 40 quid from Topdon. Really recommend them, actually, because they're quite... You'll see why in a minute. But you can buy the cheap ones. If you just want to plug in, read codes, delete codes, that is it. Then, yep, the cheapy ones are for you, probably not the more expensive one. Now, if you have a multitude of cars or you like to delve deep into issues, or if you want some help with fault finding and don't want to have to keep going on the internet and having a good search, then this is probably a bit of kit for you, because this... So, I was looking for one. They said to me, look, do you want one? We'll send you one. You try it out, let us know how you get on, right? So we'll jump onto it now, just so we're talking through as we're doing it. Now, on this, it has a wide range of cars. As long as it has an OBD2 port, then you can do what you want with it, which is cool. Trying to get a nice angle where we can all see. There we go. So we have an Audi. Now, let me show you how we got to this page to start with. So there's 9 options here. We're going to go for diagnostics. So once we've gone on to that, it gives you a selection of options. Now, there obviously is thousands of, I say thousands, hundreds of models all across the world. This is a wireless one. So it's actually connected to my phone, so we're on the internet whilst we're on here. So, hopefully, what it will do is when it brings up codes, if there's any codes, you'll actually be able to search the internet and it will tell you what that code is. That's the cool part. Now, we're into the car. If you notice, it says here, 12.9, that's the voltage of the battery of the car. So if it does start to dip a bit, turn your car on, there's no danger there. Now what it's going to do is it's going to do a system scan. Hopefully, yep, there we go. I forgot to push the button twice. And it will do a system scan. Now what it's going to do is it's going to scan through all the different areas of the car. It's going to go through engine, gearbox, it's going to go through electronics, it's going to go through sensors, brakes, and all that kind of stuff. I'll just talk to you while it's doing it, and then I'll show you when it's done. It's just processing now, as you can see. It's going to go through all the different settings, and then it will come back with if we've got any codes, and then we'll have to assess it from there. Now, the reason I chose a more expensive one is because there's a lot of things on TTs that you may want to delve a little bit deeper into than just reading the codes. For instance, if you happen to own a 3.2 TT like I do, you may want to check the chain stretch. Now, you can do that on this. You go into diagnosis, you go into live data, and you search 208.3 and 209.3, and that will give you your chain measurements. There is, based on by the fact that it's 200, or there is hundreds and hundreds of things you can do. You can watch live data on the chains, you can watch live data on the coolant, the oil temperature, the revs, the cam timing, anything you want to do, more than you know what to do with. That will give you this information. Now, this can be as difficult or as simple as you want it to be. Now, I just want nice and simple. Now, it's finished. It's done here. So what we'll do is we'll go on to engine electronics to start with. It will just have a little think about that. And then hopefully it will give us some information. Hopefully there's not too much on there. It's saying that it's read it. So you press OK. Read trouble codes. Oh, hello, hello, hello. What's going on here? Then we've got a selection. So let's read from first. I've got malfunctioning cooling system. Exhaust gas temperature sensor 1. So that's the one nearest the engine. Bank 1 mixture adaptation system too lean. Power supply terminal 30, voltage too low. A camshaft position sensor timing over retarded. So we have actually quite a few volts on this. Now, the beauty of this machine, and this is what I wanted to show you, if you're not super knowledgeable on stuff like this, you click this magic button here, and it goes on to Google, and it will Google it, and it will tell you what is wrong. This is mega. Look at that. Look, you can even watch videos on YouTube, Audi forums, trouble codes, etc. So you get to click on it and you can find out what the problem is. Then you go to your next one, and guess what? Bang, you're on Google again, and it tells you what it is. It narrows the fault down for you. How easy is that? Now, what we'll do is we'll do a report. So it's just generating a report for me, so I've got this information saved. Look at that, look, and that is cool. It tells you, it does a proper little printout, like you can give it to the customer. That is wicked. So we'll PDF that. Love that. Absolutely love that. So we've saved the PDF. Now we can come back. What we'll do now, just for jokes, we shall clean the system, because that could be historic. These could have been from years ago. The likelihood is not, but you never know. So it's done, hopefully. Now we'll go back into read DTCs, and there's nothing. Now we'll start the car and see what happens. Fingers crossed nothing comes back, but it is a TT after all. So we'll give it a few seconds just to have some errors. It's having a think about it. And no faults have returned yet. So what we'll do is, of course, I will have to take it for a drive, and then we'll see what happens going forwards. Now, let's go into one of the other systems quickly and just see what's going on. Car seems all right. It's interesting to know what them faults were. So obviously we've kept a record of them on there, so we know going forwards. Now, let's just quickly check brakes. I don't think there's going to be much on the way of brake electronics on this, but we'll have a look. I may as well show you while we're doing it. Okay, read fault codes, and what have we got here? Brake, half for brake pressure. That's interesting. In case where the sensor for brake pressure is part of the hydraulic unit, complete unit may need to be replaced. That sounds expensive. But again, we shall do a report on that. So then we've got it saved. It's always worth saving this information prior to obviously deleting it, because if you delete it and then you have a problem and someone says, oh, what was the trouble code? You say, I don't know, because I deleted them. That's always a problem. So we'll clear everything. It's always worth, once you've generated a report, is clearing everything, because then if it doesn't come back, you know it's historic and it's been dealt with. They just didn't clear the code, or it was just a one-off, and it's then obviously not going to come back. It may come back in the future, who knows. So we've cleared all the codes. Just come back out of that. Now it's normal for the ABS light to flash on the dash whilst you're in and communicating with that system. So don't worry, it will clear after you remove this computer, the diagnostics computer. Now the other benefit with this is, like I showed you in the beginning, is it does a whole plethora of cars. So if you just have one Audi TT and all you want to do is read some codes every so often, then one of the cheaper code reader options is probably for you. Now if you have multiple cars, or you want to be able to have the ability to go in and do loads to it, check things, adjust things, tweak things, and look at issues and things like that, then this is probably the one for you. It is a really powerful bit of kit, and it will last you for time. If you've got multiple cars in the household, if your partner has a Porsche, Mercedes, Citroen Picasso, whatever it is, that will do it. As long as it's an OBD2, which most cars are, from, I believe it was late 90s on early 2000s onwards. I mean, this is an X, so this does it, so that works absolutely fine. But not too bad. Now, like I said, I'll drive it and see what happens, but that is what I'll do every time I get a car, is check your code, see what is going on, see if there's anything logged that's a bit suspicious. I mean, the ideal thing to do would be to take the code reader with you, do a quick scan on the car. If they're not willing to let you do a scan on the car, you've got to ask yourself, why is that? Because that's always worrying. Now, going back to my list. Now, there's a list of things I've made. Oh, hello. So I've made a list of things. A lot of them I have actually done. A lot of them are things that are missing. Like, if you noticed in the engine bay, the engine cover's missing. I actually took that off, but it's missing the battery cover. It's missing the cover that goes across the bulkhead at the front. I wanted some spacers. And then we're on to things like maintenance. Now, this is missing the under tray. Really important, because if you've ever looked at your power steering pipes, if you don't have an under tray, they're usually damaged, pitted, swollen, which again can fail on you in the future. Plus, you're driving along and a bit of stone flicks up and hits the bottom of your car. If you have an under tray, it will just bounce off. If you don't have an under tray, that could go straight up and hit a copper or metal pipe, damage it, and leave you broken down by the side of the road. So things like that are important. The other things is there hasn't been a cam belt on this car for quite some time, so that is definitely needed doing. I've got to check for boost leaks because there is definitely a big one. I'm also going to look at the PCV system with the potential of fitting a catch can, because I haven't fitted a catch can before. Everyone keeps asking me to do a video. I know there's videos on there. but they want to see me do a video. I'm also going to fit a boost gauge because on a 1.8 turbo, do you know what? That's probably one of the biggest diagnostics ports, diagnostics fault finding tools, because you can look at that every day, know exactly what boost you're supposed to be getting. If suddenly one day you don't get that boost, you know you have an issue. And then the other things are just things like check the rocker gasket because it looks a bit sweaty at the back, which means it's likely to be leaking. Maybe the little half moon gasket or something hasn't been sealed in correctly. I just want to get that done, get it sorted so then you don't get that horrible oil burning smell. And then just some more servicing stuff. I'm going to service the gearbox because that's quite a popular one and there doesn't seem to be a great deal of information on that on the computer. But as far as the old Topdon thing goes, if you're in the market for a code reader, I would recommend this one. I'm not being paid to say that. They have let me keep this one. Well, they haven't asked for it back and I don't want to send it back because I love it. But it does multiple cars. Like I said, there is cheaper options out there, so do not feel you need to go and buy this because I'm telling you to. But if you follow the link in the description, that will take you to eBay. There is a sale on when this video comes live. The guys at Topdon have put that on there for us to save a few quid. But they are a great bit of kit. If you have multiple cars or you like to delve deeper into faults, like log things and like what I showed you, then go ahead and get it. Great bit of kit. Would fully recommend it. And it does multiple cars as well. Now, I obviously have loads of TT, so that is what predominantly I will be using it on. But I like the fact that it saves faults. I like the fact that it Google's faults, so you can have just a quick look and sort of see what you're working with and then go and have a quick look. I like the fact it does multiple different brands of cars. That is very, very cool. And the fact that it's battery powered and it updates over Wi-Fi. So if there's an update or there's newer things to be added to it, you go into your house. It's battery powered. It has batteries. So you can do updates on your Wi-Fi in the comfort of your own home before coming back out and doing some scans on the car. So fab bit of kit. Really recommend it. Like I said, don't feel you need to buy one, but if you're in the market for one and you want to buy something, you're looking at VCDS, it's a few £100 plus. You have to use a laptop, make sure your laptop's charged. It's a pain in the arse. That will do pretty much everything that will do. So hope you found this helpful, guys. This is just what I do when I buy a car, the things I look at and all that sort of stuff. But as far as I'm concerned, it's a good car. It just needs to check that boost leak. Well, that's the start anyway. Once we've sorted that, then I'm sure there's going to be other issues. But until then, I'll see you on the next one, guys. Bye for now.